France is obviously an amazing country, and yet sometimes I feel like France has one too many lists. So as you know, we've been looking for a place to live, and we have been turned down again and again and again just because of the fact that we're from out of the country. And it makes sense because all of the laws in France are mainly to protect the consumer. And that also means to protect the renter. The homeowner cannot evict the renter for 3 years. So everyone's kind of freaked out about that. They're afraid that we would sign a rental contract and then not pay them for 3 years and then leave the country. So we were turned down again and again and again and again and again. And finally we ran into a guy that he spent some time in Quebec. In the winter he went snowmobiling and loved it, and he decided that he'd try to talk somebody into renting to us, and he did, and they did. And so we were able to get into a place in December. All we had were our suitcases. And so what did we do? We bought 3 air mattresses so Caleb and Constance could sleep on the floor. Martina and I, obviously, we had one. Our container got here, which was a pretty big day. And then we went to try to buy a vehicle. And what happened? We showed up, we had the funds, we had our insurance, we had everything was in place, and they said, well, we have to wait 4 or 5 days before you can actually pick up the car to take it home. And I said, well, why is that? Well, it's going to take us that long to put it together and whatnot. And legally, the law says they have to wait 72 hours. What? Just the way it is. We called to have an internet connection installed. I called. They said, well, you have to set up an appointment. So I set up an appointment. A couple days later, and they said, well, a technician would be out between 2 to 6 weeks. Or last week, the technician finally showed up, and he connected the line from the house to the street. And so then at that point, he called the internet company to say, hey, the line is live. Now you can send out the router. They sent out the router. We got the router finally this week, a week later, and then we could actually set up an internet connection, a month plus later. Everything takes a long, long time. Well, one of my friends here, he and his wife, they lived with just a little hot plate for like 6 months. They couldn't find a place to stay. They're bouncing around from Airbnb to Airbnb. As long as it's taken, as stressful as it's been to set things up, we're grateful that we're here in this amazing city. And we're looking forward to what God does based out of this city, connected to Quebec, connected to what's happening in the US as well as North Africa.